Hello and welcome to my review of the Tyranid Hive Crone, or Harpy. You can make either of the models with this kit. This will set you back £48. That's a huge amount of money. It's more than a Land Raider. It's actually the most expensive model in the Tyranid range, if you don't count the Carnifex brood. But I think you should count the Carnifex brood, because that's the only way you can get kind of one Carnifex, is to buy them in the swarm of two, which is £55. So in a way, it's sort of the second most expensive model that you can get in the Tyranid army, not including Forge World, of course. And straight away, I will say that I do think it's overpriced. I do think it's too much money for what you get. I think one of these should be £35, maybe 40 at the very most. I don't think it should be, you know, on that borderline to £50 at all. More on that later. Let's have a look at the model. It's a bit odd to get it in the camera shot fully, but hopefully you can see it in all its beauty, in a way. There are a few gaps and things that I need to polish up and you know, file, so just forgive me for that. I think it is a nice looking model. Definitely works well with the theme. The flying base is just your normal flying base, and to be fair, I don't think it really works with the hole underneath the creature, because you can't really use the flying base the other way, like at all. Which really sucks, because most flying creatures and flying vehicles and things, you can use the flying base both ways, but this one you're stuck with just that. And that would be the same with the Harpy as well, if you chose to turn it into a Harpy. And also, it wobbles about. The stand doesn't go all the way through. I don't know why they didn't clip those parts out. I mean, if you were to clip those parts out, it might be loose, and the stand might go all the way through, and then it would look like it's quite low to the ground. But yeah, really odd sort of design choice with that, with the hole there. Not only is it wobbly, obviously, if you did make another Hive Crone or a Harpy, it's going to be wobbly too, and also it's going to be in exactly the same sort of flight trajectory. Nothing will change. The wings, you can't position the wings or anything like that, or the tail. The head, you can rotate the head a little bit, but yeah, in terms of trying to make the model look different to another one, you're restricted, and that's a huge negative of a model both this size and this expensive. But nonetheless, let's have a look at all the detail and things on it. So I really do like the head for the Crone. You've got a few spikes on it. You haven't got like the eyebrow kind of spikes that you have on the Harpy. I do like the sort of biocannon coming out of its mouth as well. I don't know whether that can retreat all the way back and it can still eat, but it's quite a big thick thing that's protruding out of its mouth. You've got these sacs, which I'm sure must sort of power that gun. These kind of acid sacs, and one of the best features, I think, and it's excellent for rules as well, are all these tentaclids. You can magnetize them on there, I suppose, but if you were, you're not going to be able to hide the magnets at all. You're going to see the magnets whichever way you do it, because the mounting points they only sort of affix one way. So you could drill a little hole in, put a magnet, and then magnetize them, but then you're left with the mounting points. But these aren't like one-use only weapons. You can use these as many times as possible. So for me, magnetizing them, it doesn't really make sense unless it's for kind of transport, but then this tail and the spike would get in the way more than the tentaclids. But you know, I suppose you could do that if you wanted to. The wings are lovely, and unfortunately they're not veined, but they are kind of ripped in places. The membrane, it's not that thin, which is a good thing too. On the top, you'll see, yeah, there's some you know, gaps and things which I need to sort of file and polish up. But you know, the top carapace is quite decent. One thing I will say is I'm brave to say that I did have a bit of a mess up, and when I was putting this sort of carapace hole in, it did go through into the model and get lost. So I had to kind of take this off and scoop this part out and then reattach it. So just be wary that these parts, if you're not careful, can go into the model, and a little bit like a tank or a rhino or something, if you drop one of the pieces in there and it's got a bit of glue on, you've got to be quick to try and remove that before it sets inside the model. Can you magnetise it for the Harpy? I don't think you really can. Maybe, but there are a few differences, like the tail, and the head is different, even this top carapace is different. Maybe you could magnetise this front bit and put the two weapons on, but it's really up to you. I think it should have been more of a flexible model because of the price. I think they should have designed it from the ground up, of you being able to just quite easily modify it into one or the other. And I think they should do that with all their flyers that are, you know, over £40 or so. What it also comes with, if I can put it up on the stand correctly, so what it also comes with is 3 spore mines. I think this is mainly for the Harpy though, that it sort of drops these and then they are on the battlefield and they just float around, even if they don't sort of land and hit on a unit. So that's what you get. You do get 3 little spore mines and the Hive Crone or Harpy, whichever you choose to turn it into. Which, with its little extras, seems like you don't get much compared to a Tyrannocyte, which is £10 cheaper, and you get 6 spore mines and a mucilid, and also you get the Tyrannocyte itself. So it makes the Tyrannocyte look like a bargain, really. I know the Tyrannocyte doesn't have the big wings and things, but anyway, enough about the model. And before I do some size comparisons, what I'll do is I'll just show you all the spare parts. So these are pretty much the kind of Harpy spare parts. So there you go. You don't get many spare parts, definitely not as many as in the like Tyrannofex set, but you pretty much get a different head with a different tongue. Similar type of tongue really, but without the dual cannon popping out of it. And yeah, you get these sort of like eyebrow armour, I'm sort of calling it, where you put them in there, look. So it makes him look like he's faster or something, if you can see that. But in reality, you know, he's not. He's still same movement speed as the Crone. Yeah, you also get parts for the venom cannons. I think someone told me that's the wrong one. Yeah, so I think that would go like that, and then you can have sort of 2 of them aiming down, and also you can have this weapon as well, which I think is the Stranglethorn cannon. So yeah, you've got the heavy venom cannons or the Stranglethorn cannon, yeah, which I think just goes there, so I think that's the Stranglethorn cannon. So yeah, you've got a choice between those. And obviously with the Harpy you can make use with those spore mine cysts as well. It can drop spore mines as it flies over the enemy, hence why you get the 3 spore mines. Probably the only winged Tyranid creature I've got at the moment that I could draw a comparison with would be the Hive Tyrant. So I don't know if that really helps as much. I mean, Hive Tyrant did look like quite a big model, but this Hive Crone is huge. Its wingspan is very large, and you know, 3 of them on a battlefield would definitely take up a lot of space. Maybe if I took it off and showed you it this way, does that help? It's difficult to sort of... Hive Crone's definitely bigger. The wings are bigger, just... Yeah, the wings are bigger, there's no doubt about that. But the hands for the Hive Tyrant or Flyrant are bigger, but it doesn't have these talons on its edges. So hopefully that helps in some way. Remember that the Hive Tyrant is, I think, £33, so it's a bargain really. So yeah, there you go. And also this Hive Crone is only, I think, 2 sprues in my unboxing, so £24 a sprue, a lot of money. Next to a Tyrannofex, which, I don't know, bulk-wise definitely looks like a bigger model, bulk-wise, just doesn't have those wings either side and doesn't have that long tail. So difficult to get an accurate sort of size comparison with this thing. But yeah, considering that the Tyrannofex is £35, so £13 cheaper for the Tyranofex. And then finally I'll do some size comparisons with a few smaller creatures. So we've got Gene Stealer there, and that's the only other sort of small creature I've got actually, so hopefully that helps. And then next to Space Marine, just on the left here, and a Primaris Space Marine. So hopefully that helps in some way. There you go, that's it compared to like its wings and the Tentaclid. I mean, the Tentaclid is just longer than a Space Marine. Hopefully that helps too, how big the Space Marine is. And then the Primaris, obviously, a fair bit chunkier. It's difficult to do sort of size comparisons with these flying creatures. So this is my part of the review where I'll go through all of the rules for the unit. You'll find it in your brand new Tyranid Codex under the flyer section, which is after the transport section, past the heavy support. You can either go for a Harpy or a Hive Crone. If I do get a Harpy, I'll draw more conclusions and do a separate review of that. But just to say that the Harpy is a power level of 9 and the Hive Crone is cheaper at a power level of 8. When I first got into Tyranids, I didn't really know what the difference was between Harpies and Hive Crones. I now know that the Harpy is more of a flyer against other flyers, and is pretty good as like a little bomber as well. And the Hive Crone is more of an assault kind of flyer, but it is also very good against other flying units too. Points wise, a Harpy would be 121 points and a Hive Crone would be 153. So you're paying less power points but more actual points for the Hive Crone. So the movement on, say, both of them is exactly the same. They're both affected by damage the same too. So as long as they've got between 7 and 12 wounds remaining, their movement is 30 inches. So very, very fast creatures. Weapon skill is 4+, ballistic skill is 4+. If they've got 4 to 6 wounds, their movement drops down to 20 inches. Weapon skill is 4+, but their ballistic skill drops to 5+. And then if they've only got 1 to 3 wounds, their movement drops by a third, all the way down to 10 inches, and their weapon skill drops to 5+, but their ballistic skill stays at 5+. Their strength is 6, toughness 6, they've got 12 wounds, attacks 3, leadership 9, and a save of 4+. So their stat line for both of them is exactly the same. No changes with both of those. Now the Hive Crone, which is what this model is, it's a single model armed with a Drool cannon, Tentaclids, scything wings and a wicked spur. It can also fire stinger salvos. Now the Drool cannon, which the Harpy doesn't have, is a range 8-inch weapon, so short range, assault D6, strength 6, AP -1, damage 1, and it automatically hits its target. So it's a flamer basically, a strength 6 flamer. It's got stinger salvo, which I can't see the stinger salvos on there anywhere. One would imagine it might come out of these holes here. It's just like on the Tyranofex that I reviewed a while ago, which are assault 4, strength 5, AP -1, damage 1. It's a nice, 24-inch range strength 5 weapon. Then it has the Tentaclids, which are a 36-inch range weapon, assault 4, strength 5, damage 1. However, it's got some extra little abilities for the Tentaclids. You may re-roll failed hit rolls for this weapon against units that can fly. That's perfect. Its ballistic skill is 4+, so re-rolling is a very good feature for this weapon type. In addition, if the target is a vehicle and you make a wound roll of 4+, it suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any other damage. If you make a wound roll of a 6+, inflict D3 mortal wounds instead. So that's excellent. So this is the main reason you get it, is the Tentaclids, and obviously its speed and things like that. But basically, going against vehicles, you've got a 50-50 chance of knocking off a mortal wound against it, as well as the other damage that it causes with the strength 5, which might not be much with the strength 5. But you get those 6s, you potentially knocking off 3 mortal wounds. Say you get the luckiest roll ever. That's 12 mortal wounds. The only downside obviously is it's 36-inch range, and people are like, oh, 24-inch range or 36-inch range. It can move 30 inches. And these are assault weapons. So it's best to focus on the fact that it essentially has an effective range of 66 inches. So you deploy this on the battlefield and it's pretty much going to be in range of everything on a standard sort of size battlefield. Melee weapons, it's got Scything Wings, which is strength user, which is 6, AP -2, damage D3, and you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for the weapon. Not too bad. But then it's got this Wicked Spur. I think it's like its tail, its spiked tail. Strength 8, so it bumps it up by a couple. AP -3, brilliant. Damage D3 again. However, each time the bearer fights, it can make one and only one attack with this weapon, and that's addition to the bearer's normal attack. So you get your 3 attacks normally, and then you get this one attack that's a higher strength, better AP, and possibility of inflicting D3 damage. Its abilities, it's got instinctive behavior. So unfortunately, yeah, you're going to need a synapse, so a flying hive tyrant, keeping up with it. That would be difficult for it to keep up with it, but you get what I mean. That would be great. And like other Tyranid creatures, it has death throws. So if it's reduced to 0 wounds, you roll a d6, and on a 6, a unit within 3 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds. So like a lot of the other Tyranid creatures, you know, when you kill it, it might cause those 3 mortal wounds. So another reason why you don't want to go in close combat with it. So I think it's got a great balance there of speed. Yeah, it's not the toughest thing with only toughness 6, but then again, it's only 1 less than a Carnifex. Would have been nice if it was toughness 7, just give it that edge, and it would have been nice if its save was 3+, but you know, the toughness of 6 and 4+ save, not amazing, but it's relying on its speed and its effective range of those weapons. It's a good trade-off. You've got something that's, you've got the assault for Stinger Salvo, you've got the assault for Tentaclids, and then you've got the Drool Cannon, which is, you know, like a heavy flamer pretty much. And then in close combat, it can do some damage just with its Scything Wings and its Wicked Spur. What you're going to be going after though is other flyers and definitely those vehicles, knocking off those mortal wounds. How would I deal with this? Well, a dedicated anti-air vehicle or unit would make short work of this thing. A lot of shots as well, because, you know, it's not going to be too difficult to knock down those 12 wounds, especially as it's only got a 4+ save, doesn't get a better, you know, invulnerable save or anything like that. And also it's going to be quite weak if the other player keeps it out of synapse range and things. So in summary, it is a nice looking model, you know, very thematic. If you want, you know, all your units and things to be flying, but I do think it's expensive for what it is, almost £50. And although the rules are good, they're only going to be good in sort of certain situations. It can be quite fragile, and you've really got to use this unit tactically, otherwise it's a big sink of sort of 8 power points. You know, you could use a Trigon more effectively, or even a Tyrannifex or something like that. And that's all I really wanted to say about the Hive Crone. What do you guys think of it? Do you think the price is justified? Am I missing something here? How do you like to use it in your battles? Please do put all your comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. For the Norn Queen.